Hey there, it's Christian from 7 Gaming Network, and I'm here with another Tactica, and this time it's for this lady here. It's the Nightsister. So she is a force villain character, and I'm going to talk through the card. So we'll look at those ability sides, the dice sides. We'll look at her ability, points value, health, all those kind of things. We'll look at her role on the table and how you might take advantage of Nightsister in your deck, and then what kind of decks that we are seeing Nightsister in and how she can contribute to your deck, as well as a few tips for playing against this Lady of the Night. So I'm going to start with her role because it will help us to understand exactly how we should be using her, or how we should be evaluating her dice sides. So she really is a pure control character. This is a character who's in your deck to bring control elements to it. Okay, so bearing that in mind, that this is a control character, let's have a look at these die sides. So first of all, we see that even though this is a control character, we've got two damage sides, and they're straight up damage sides as well. Ranged damage, which is slightly unusual in Force Villain, because of course the others are melee damage. Who knows, we may see more in future. So that doesn't quite fit the colour pie, which is a bit awkward, but ultimately it's still really good. We love 1 and 2 on a character like this. So then after those ranged sides, and let me just point out as well that this is a character that early on I'm going to say people will often splash into their decks. And so it's not so bad that it's range damage, because of course there's so many other decks. If she's going in with yellow characters or going in with red characters, well, lots of those colour pies are using more ranged. So actually I think she fits very, very well having that range damage. So next two sides I would call her control sides, and that she's got 1 point of disrupt and 1 point of discard. Now 1 point of either of those, actually on its own, that isn't very good. But what Nightsister is here for is to bring this sort of versatility, I think, in these die sides to your deck. So she's classic control, so the chances are you're going to have maybe some focus around, you're going to have some ways of getting her die to the face that you want it to be, quite apart from her ability. These die sides are making a character that is quite versatile. There's lots of things you can do with her. You can do damage, you can disrupt an opponent, you can discard a card, discard a card, or you can bring some resources to the table. Now that of course does mean that she is a little more inconsistent. It's harder to know what she's going to bring to the table. However, that versatility is her strength, and as she's going in a control deck where I'd hope you've got, apart from her ability, other ways of manipulating her dice, you're going to have lots of options available, which is what a control deck needs and wants. And then of course we've got the resource side. So those are those dice sides. Now ideally, of course, most of the time you're going to get to use her for a damage. That's the general way we win games of this. But she's going to work really well if you're using the discard side, because discard is another way of winning the game, of course. If you can get your character to no cards left at all, that's a game win when the next round starts. So let's have a little bit of a dig more into this ability of hers then. So I think this is the best thing about Nightsister. Well, it is the best thing. It's not just I think about it. This really is the standout thing about her. As an action, to be able to re-roll any die, that is simply, it's not just the best thing about her, that's one of the best abilities in the game currently, period, after the Awakening set. It is really super strong. Now it does have a downside: deal 1 damage to this character. And that isn't to be taken lightly, because Nightsisters only have 7 health points as one of the big drawbacks of this character. However, the ability to say, yeah, I don't like that die, re-roll it, that's enormous. whether that's your own and you're using it offensively, you're trying to get a certain result, you need to force some damage through, you need to activate a ranged chain, you need that black range damage to go off, so you can all your holdout blasters and jetpacks can add all their damage. Really powerfully, it can be used offensively, but it's very powerfully used when used defensively as well. I don't like that. I don't like that Vader die with 3 melee on. Reroll it. I don't like Han Solo. That single black side you've got activating all your other holdout blasters and so on that Han Rey might be bringing to the table. I want you to reroll that. And whilst that's very frustrating to play against, it's fantastic when you are the controlling character and you're just able to go, yeah, I don't like that, reroll it, take a damage on a shield. Remember, if you shield at Nightsister, you've got free rerolls. Those shields are just absorbing the damage from those rerolls, and you can get 5, 6, 7 easily. Many games I've had where I've used a single Nightsister to reroll 5, 6, 7 dice. That's many games, and that's enormous. That's absolutely huge, because in terms of how you use Nightsister, it's enormous, because her role essentially, as I like to say, is to manipulate and mitigate. She manipulates your own dice so you can offensively push that damage through, and she mitigates your opponent's damage incoming, or whatever it is they're trying to do, by manipulating their dice. And the general flow that we tend to end up seeing a deck with Nightsisters use is that she's manipulating and mitigating for the first half or most of the round, and then your opponent has sort of used their characters and they're used up, and at that point she then is able to start getting focused perhaps to her damage side, and then you really make the most of her by getting that 1 and 2 damage out. Because her ability is an action, it has a sort of a stalling effect to the turn. And if you ever played against a deck that's kind of stalling out, it's really quite scary. If you get to the end of all your activations and you're claiming the battlefield and they haven't activated any of their characters, or they've still got 2 characters to go, you kind of feel like you're just saying, okay, do your worst. And so that can be very, very nice, especially if you get to that point and you're about to activate all of your characters and you've completely neutered the incoming damage from the opposing team by using this action reroll. It's glorious when it happens. So, in terms of decks that this character could go into, we have so a good example of a deck that Nightsister can work quite well in is a 3 Stormtrooper and 1 Nightsister deck. Now, of course, what we're using her there for really is she brings a little bit of control to what is a very aggro-based setup. Now, some people, I included, might say this is potentially muddying your strategy a little bit, but this is where ability becomes so important. She's not just about then mitigating the damage in an aggro deck. Actually, she becomes about being able to manipulate your own Stormtroopers dice to really push that damage through. And it's a really good example of bringing in some flexibility to a deck that's quite singularly focused. Its strategy is dish out loads of damage quickly as you can, F11Ds and cheap blasters and so on. But she can either maximise that, or at the last minute keep a Stormtrooper alive by using her ability on a Vader die, for instance, or a Mind Probe die or something like that. And that allows you to deal more damage. Okay, so a really great example of a blue splash. And of course, she gives you the ability to bring in some blue cards that you might not otherwise have access to. Things like Sith Holocron could be really great in a deck like that. So, if you're bringing in some defensive abilities as well, or even Mind Probe for that more damage output. And now another deck that I designed called Sister Sledge. And I called it Sister Sledge because really it's got 2 Nightsisters and an elite Kylo in, and the 2 Nightsisters are really there to manipulate and mitigate and try and do that through the whole of the turn until you get to this stage where you've pretty much stopped your opponent's damage or whatever it is they were trying to do that turn, and then it comes to your turn and you can just do your worst. You use re-rolls, you can discard cards, you can get the girls to, because 2 Nightsisters, to do their damage, and you've got Kylo, Elite Kylo, who can either pressure early on in the turn, so your opponent's using up resources trying to stop him doing his damage, because you want to be sticking lightsabers on him and mind probes on him and all those kind of things. And your opponent's damage is then split. They know they need to get rid of the Nightsisters because, of course, the Nightsisters are doing all the manipulating and mitigating, but they can't just leave Kylo on the board because he keeps swinging for 3, 4, 5 damage a turn with lightsabers or mind probes or whatever he's got on him. So Sister Sledge creates this. So it's essentially a control deck, but it's going to win by doing some damage once you've just controlled your opponent out of the game. And it puts your opponent in this really awkward position of, do I get rid of the Nightsisters, do I get rid of Kylo? And that kind of leads us on to how you play against this deck, or how you play against this character, I should say, in whatever deck she is. And that is, get rid of her, primary her, get her off the table. If she's in a deck, she's there because they want the rerolls, they want that control element. She's only got 7 health. And not only that, but her ability, as she uses it, is also bringing her down in health all the time as well. So you can really go for the kill on this character really quickly and primary her. One thing I would say as well is be careful of using your focus die results when she's around. Because of course you use a focus, you flip another die of yours to whatever side you want it on, and then she just makes you re-roll it. And it feels like you've kind of almost lost 2 dice there because you've wasted a focus, and there's absolutely no guarantee that die is going to land back on the side you focused it to. So she can really put a spanner in the works if you use a lot of focus in your deck. Or be careful of using cards that do single die manipulation. You know, if you play an underestimate or something like that, that's going to be a real problem because you re-roll your die. Oh great, I got the result I wanted. She just makes you re-roll it again. Anyway, that's Nightsister. She's a great splash into your deck if you need a bit of blue and you want access to blue cards, because she's a fantastic body, 8 points, with an amazing ability and a useful die, a really useful die. But she can also be an absolutely integral, fundamental part of a really good blue control deck. So there's Nightsister. As ever, if you think I've missed anything out, please add it into the comments on the bottom of this video so that new players coming along to this series can see and learn from your experience. We want it to be a resource for players to be able to use as they learn the game. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can contact me through the Knights of Ren Discord channel, which is where loads of us are for Star Wars Destiny. My online handle is Peace Lord. Anyway, that's Nightsister. Get using her in decks and keep enjoying Star Wars Destiny. It's a great game. Until next time, see ya.